Welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted that we have with us Daniel Tiffany, who's the managing director at Green Big Digital. So, Daniel, thank you so much for your time today. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Green Big Digital, what you do, and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so we're Dream Big Digital. We're based in the centre of Leeds on the Calls, so right in the centre of Leeds. And yeah, we're an e-commerce agency. Our specialisation is really working with small and medium-sized brands who are really looking to grow. Quite ambitious in terms of their growth, whether that's through improving their online store, launching a new online store, or looking at their marketing and kind of everything they do online. Really, our specialism is probably working extremely close with brands. Like spending the
Yep.
time to really try and learn everything we can about a business, about a customer, about where they've come from and where they want to get to, and try and feel like part of their team, which is, as we're working with small and medium sized businesses, we tend to often work with like either directors or owners of those businesses, and you can feel that passion coming from those. And we
Yeah.
try and we try and play off that and really feel like part of their own team, and their success is kind of our success, is what we try and say.
Brilliant. There's nothing. I mean, it's great. There's nothing like an owner-managed business for the, as you said, the passion and the because it's right. This often at the start or the early days of a successful growing business. So it's something we do too. So I love working with business owners. And we were saying before we started that we've got a common client in the guys at Comfys who I haven't seen for many years, but I'm hoping maybe catch up as a result of this interview. I might try and get in touch with them. So. Daniel, if we start maybe thinking, talking a little bit about your background, how you got into business and why this particular one, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So before this, I've I studied in Leeds and just kind of stayed here since I studied. So I've lived in, despite my accent, I've lived here for like 18 years now, I think.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mainly worked for like big fashion groups, leading their web design teams. Like my last role before I started this business was for Freeman's and Grattan
Yes.
over in Bradford. And I led all of their web design teams. So kind of like working
Wow.
across. They have 11 brands there,
Wow.
and I led all their web design teams, kind of 30-ish designers.
Wow.
And we were kind of like an in-house agency, really, is how we worked, because we worked across every brand. We'd get briefs in, manage the work. It was like running an agency for a strict list of 11 clients, really. Um, and like at that point, I kind of thought, like, I'm doing this on a day to day anyway, and it's for a massive organization at that point. And I just thought, I want to do this for myself, really. I want to, I suppose, A, do this for myself, and then B, kind of work with, like we work with medium-sized businesses on the whole now. So not kind of tiny startups, but like I said, medium-sized businesses who are, with direct contact with the owners, and we feel their passion, and it's very infectious. And also we feel like we can make an impact. The work we
Yep.
do for them makes a massive impact to not just their business but their lives. And
Yes.
it's really exciting, like working with that kind of size business. And I kind of, I love e-commerce, and I love web design, and I love all that sort of
Brilliant.
thing. So yeah, that's why I decided to start it up.
Fantastic. I see the passion comes out of you too. Absolutely wonderful. So when you were growing up, was this the sort of thing you saw yourself doing, or did you have a different path at early doors?
I think I don't know if e-commerce agencies existed when I was growing up,
Yes.
but,
Fair point.
but and I also think that like when I was at school, I think like business skills weren't prioritized enough, and they're
No,
probably still not now.
still not. No.
It's something that's kind of either not studied at all or not taken particularly seriously at schools, which is, I don't think entrepreneurship and stuff is really encouraged in
No.
the current kind of education system. So probably not. It's something that never crossed my mind until I kind of started working for various fashion businesses and stuff. And I suppose then the idea formed, and it was still a good few years before I then finally took the plunge and acted on it, to be honest.
Brilliant, brilliant. And looking back as you grow the business, what are some of the biggest challenges and issues you've had to overcome?
Um, I think the biggest challenge was probably like right at the start, like growing from scratch, really going from security to
Yes.
insecurity, really. Of like I had a pretty high up position, like well paid, and like have a family and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So taking that initial plunge is a real big step, especially when like I hadn't worked for an agency before, and I had some contacts like from various businesses, but not a ton, you know. So it was very much a challenge. Like I suppose the biggest challenge, yeah, was taking that first step, and then those first few months of like, how the hell do I start? You know,
Yeah.
where do I begin? Yeah.
It, it's interesting because we often talk to people and so the most owner managed businesses and SME businesses are started by people that are good at what they do. They're not necessarily good at that point at running a business at what they do, and it's quite a leap of faith in many ways, isn't it?
Yeah, I think what really helped was like, yes, I worked at a big fashion businesses, but in between that, I also did work at some smaller businesses as
Great,
well, where,
great.
you know, maybe it is a team of like 10 people. And like, even if you're not then involved in things like looking at like profit and loss and looking at like knowing how invoicing works and all that kind of things,
Yep,
like I wasn't directly doing it, but because it's a small team, you do kind of soak that up more.
you know it's there. Yeah.
Yeah, whereas at a big business, you're so far from that that you have no idea how that side of things works at all, I think.
It's interesting. I've worked I've done a few engagements with um guys that have come out very, very senior roles as CEOs, etc., from very large organizations, as you said, and they start a small business and they really struggle because they expect stuff to be done. It's like they've been operating for so long at a level where everyone around them just does the stuff that they're asked to do, and coming in and employing people that probably aren't that bothered about what their job is, and like, why are they doing it? And it's like, well, it's because we've got to engage them in a different way. Whereas, yeah, it's a really interesting change of mindset, isn't it? And things we have to learn.
Yeah, I think luckily, like we've got a very good accountant and things like that, and we have like a solicitor and things like that that can just be people to ask questions of. And like the accountant, for example, is a guy who I can ask a question that's probably not his job to cover.
Yes.
Like for example, if I ask him, you know, someone's not paying invoices, when do we stop doing work, or what would be
Yeah.
your advice be? He would give advice, whereas I think, you know, maybe some people wouldn't in that
Yeah.
scenario. At least he kind of helps us answer
Great.
those questions.
That's brilliant. And as you grow the business, what are some of the things sort of most important things you've learned about running and growing a business?
Um, I think one of the biggest things is kind of, and especially initially, is like confidence in your abilities, and then also like underselling yourself, whether that's to do with like price is one thing and like underselling yourself and that sort of things, but then also underselling yourself in terms of we were just talking briefly before this about like selling yourself, you know, like
Yeah.
selling yourself and having the confidence to say what you can do, what you've done for other businesses, and what you can help them achieve, and not being, yeah, it probably doesn't come naturally to a lot of people to do that, including myself.
No, I completely agree. As you say, talking about not sort of blowing a trumpet and things, and not having that confidence, and but and that the challenge is that the confidence bit is where the profit's made in general.
Yeah.
All of that is potentially lost profit, isn't it? If we're not able to stick with what our true value is, but it's such a difficult thing. Especially when it's very personal. I find it's like when it's our own business and it's almost like backing ourselves. It's often for many people a lot easier to be more confident in other people than it is in ourselves. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I think, yeah, that's a really good point as well. Of like everything is so much more personal when it's your own business
Yes.
compared to when it's not, and whether that is like selling yourself and what you do, or just like the ups and downs of the day to day kind of, if you get a project, if you don't get a project, if you're, yeah, it is so much more personal. Everything hits harder, whether it's the happy moments or the angry moments.
Absolutely, and it can be tough, isn't it? Because obviously a set of negatives can create a feeling and a mindset that's not helpful. I was told a while ago, and I love the phrase, and it's basically everything. Get it right. Everything is neutral until we add meaning to it, and that's fascinating because whether it's a win or a loss or whatever, I can choose to add meaning or I can choose not to, and yeah, and it's easy to say. It's not even always easy to do.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, that makes complete sense. I completely agree.
Because I mean, I had the same. So if a client, somebody chooses not to work with you, even though you can help them, it's like it's easy to take that badly. But it's just life, I guess. We all know logically that not everyone is going to say yes. Like not everyone's going to say no. It's just being managed that. And you're probably aware, Daniel, we're a business coaching organisation. I'm just keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with before, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who are the people that have had the biggest influence on you?
Yeah, I think like in terms of business, I've not worked with like a direct coach that much. Like obviously like in previous roles, like having managers and people above you. But I found that like what's worked best with me in business and trying to learn and that side of things has been like having people to look up to more and people that lead by example a lot
Right.
more. And
Yeah.
like obviously you ask them for advice, but there's never been like a formal structure there for
Yeah.
me. It's more been like observing the people that I admire within the same organization,
Brilliant.
or seeing how they act, whether it's in meetings or difficult situations or anything like that, and trying to learn from that and even speaking to them about it, but in less of a structured kind of their mentoring me type way,
Brilliant.
more just having them as a friend that's above you, if you know what I mean, at
Yeah.
work.
But modeling behaviors, modeling my behavior and other people's is a really effective way, isn't it? It's learning often, what works by watching other people. Sometimes working out what doesn't work by watching other people, which is unfortunately if we have a poor manager or a poor leader, we can also learn from them too, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, definitely some of that as
And,
well.
and have you picked up? I love picking up quotes or sayings that people use regularly. Is there any quotes or sayings you catch yourself using on a regular basis?
um, I think like yeah, I'm like very passionate about my work. Hopefully that comes up and what you do. And there's like a really common quote that's very very paraphrased here, but something along the lines of like, like if you love your work, then you're not working a day in your life because it's
Yes.
not work to you. Or like there's another one that's like. Your work should be love and not a marriage of convenience, which is kind of along a similar lines of like, yeah, like
Yeah.
you've got to be passionate about what you do. Otherwise, every morning you're going to wake up and just kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, your life will disappear and you'll dread what you're doing. And like, if you're starting a business, I think you've got to be so passionate. And then
Yeah.
also when I'm looking for like employees, it's just number one thing above skills and above experience. I think the passion that they have and the passion that comes across, like the chances that we're going to find someone that has the exact skills that we need is those people aren't always out there. However, if you can get someone that's got that passion and they're going to spend the time, like even like after work, you're not asking them to do it, but even if they have that desire of like to in their own time look into things and be learning and like
Yes.
seeing what other e-commerce businesses are doing and stuff, like the rate that they learn at, like in 6 months they're probably equated to not having a degree in something that
Yep.
that is relevant, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, actually. One of the things we talk about recruitment with people we work with is that most people, most recruitment processes, we recruit on experience, but typically we sack on attitude. That's the people.
Yeah.
So our proposition is let's start with attitude, a base level experience, yeah, whatever you want it to be. But let's find the people with a great attitude, the passion, as you say, and they're actually going to want to learn to do it our way.
Yeah.
And so I completely agree. It's finding and engaging with people that have a passion for who we are and what we do is so important, I think.
Yeah, massively. And we have like we're a team of five. So if we have like one person, if one person on the team is, is kind of bringing a negative mindset, it has a massive effect on the whole business. 20% of your team is kind
Yeah,
of grumpy. Like it has a massive effect on the office and like
absolutely.
everything.
Couldn't agree more. And Danny, what would you find? What would you say you've learned about yourself over this over your career?
Um, I think like I've probably learned to become more and more aware of my strengths and weaknesses, and then trying to come up with ways of addressing them. I think like um, yeah, like there's certain parts of the business that either I'm not good at or I don't enjoy doing, or I kind of let slide. And I think I've tried to, as we've grown, either put things in place to target that, or hire the right people to fill that gap that I don't have, if that makes
Yes.
sense. So like, it might be something as simple as like, um, for example, a side of the business that I don't enjoy, and I bet not many people enjoy, is like chasing up unpaid invoices, for
Yep.
example. And like, I have to like put a certain time in my calendar to force myself to do that, and there's no excuses on a certain day.
Yep.
Or it might be that like, okay, there's a side of like, for example, like it might be a skill. So if I was looking at a website's design, I'd probably weaker when it comes to designing websites that are more feminine or targeted at the female market, and therefore, like our senior designer, like that's like a strong point
Brilliant.
to try and like negate that, so we can just expand our portfolio and make sure that we can cover kind of any inquiries that we get. Just making sure I kind of fill those holes with
Brilliant.
hires, if that makes sense as well.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And what looking to the future, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I think for us, we started like 3 months before the pandemic happened. That
Right.
was when our business started, and I think that made us evolve in a certain way. And one of those ways was we we do most of the stuff that we do remotely, and we work with people like all across the country, which is really good in some senses. Like our biggest clients are in London and Manchester, probably on the whole. And we, in the Leeds and the Yorkshire market, we probably have a much smaller share than we'd
Right.
like. So I think like our challenge for the year ahead is probably growing that, and I think that'll really help us. Like the way we work, like I said, is like more try to be more personable and really like build those relationships with brands and try and really be, really get inside their business.
Yep.
And I think that's easier face to face than it is remotely. And I think we'd benefit from having a bigger client base within the local area. So I think to achieve that this year, we're looking at events, and we're looking at whether that's like running our own events or attending other events and networking, and just trying to expand that client base is probably our biggest challenge,
Yeah.
because we're very Zoom heavy at the moment.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So totally get that. And I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going to business right now.
I think I've loved the journey. Like it's not always been easy, but I've like absolutely loved the journey. So I think like if you have, like we were saying, that drive and that passion, if you have that in you and it's something that you're really really passionate about, then my advice would always be like go for it and throw everything at it.
Brilliant.
Don't hold back, and even if you can't afford to like give up your day job to dedicate to that right now, just make sure that you're always working towards that goal in some way or another, even if it's like a couple of hours every evening or whatever you can
Brilliant.
do. Like yeah, push yourself and try and achieve it. I think like I probably, yeah, like I said, I put starting this business off for a number of years due to like just security and kind of
Yes,
not having that risk. And I think I probably could have started it. I probably could have started it earlier. And I think it's easy to be afraid to do that. And before you know it, 5 years has passed and you still haven't taken the plunge.
yeah. No, it's a difficult thing to time, isn't it? Especially when, as you say, you've got that level of security and but yeah, and looking back, if is there anything looking back that you do differently in your business significantly if you were to start again?
I think there's there's obviously tons of mistakes. There always is, like things you would change. However, I suppose if you change them, you might not have had those learnings and be
Absolutely.
where you are now. But I think one of the biggest ones was probably know the market well enough and where we kind of fit into it. So, in terms of what we do, like the majority of our clients use Shopify as their
Yeah.
e-commerce platform. Not all of them, but the vast majority. It's probably our area of expertise. And Shopify is, an enormous kind of player in the industry, and it spreads a really wide range of businesses, all the way from someone selling a couple of things from their bedroom all the way up to people like Jim, whoever, are like massive kind of hundreds of millions of pounds turnover.
Yes.
And I think when I started the business, I had no idea where I wanted us to kind of fit in that massive scale and where we could perform our best. Since then, I've probably learned that okay, we can't do websites that are extremely cheap, because those people will be outsourcing tons of work to either the Far East or Eastern Europe or whatever, and churning out websites at such a rate that
Yes.
one, I wouldn't enjoy, and two, like it's probably it's just not what I want our business to be. Um, so yeah, I think we originally just said yes to everything, just yes, 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 and like tried to get it all done because we needed the work. Whereas now we're
Yep.
a lot more refined in in who we work with and like where we fit in that market. Of okay, we work with businesses that are kind of 5 to 30, 40 people, that kind of area. Some of them have physical stores. Some of them have existing online stores that they're looking to kind of improve. Um, so yeah, we kind of fit within that area, and I think we've found our niche now, and who we're best and who enjoy working with the
Yeah,
most,
great.
I think is important.
Think that's really important, isn't it, to know what makes an A grade client for us, which could be different to anybody else, and who we'd be an A grade supplier for, because then you've
Yeah,
got that way better match, and everybody's so much happier, and and ultimately it's more profitable for us and for them mostly because we've delivered something that they that they're happy and proud of and so are we.
yeah.
And it takes a while to do that, and it takes you have to kiss a few frogs, I think, to find the ones that to understand what an A grade client looks like for us. I think quite often. Um,
Definitely, yeah. It took a while to build that profile of like, yeah, who we want to
yes,
work with and who we're gonna get on with best. And like, yeah, it took a while.
and it is one of these things where sometimes you have to have a few, as you said, the things to learn from. So sometimes it's who we don't want to work with helps us identify who we do. If that, you need that sort of contrast of good and bad, don't you? Really, to be clear.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
And so finally, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do so, Daniel?
Um, I think it'd probably be that like, yeah, like I suppose like nothing's forever, and like learn from your mistakes type thing of kind of along a similar lines to what we were just saying, really, but more in life in general. Like I originally studied a degree that I've then never used. That like I originally, I worked at a number of businesses. Some were a better fit for me, and some weren't. And at the time, it seems like the biggest thing in the world. Like it seems like the biggest problem ever. However, just like yeah, nothing's permanent. Just like learn from your mistakes and keep growing. I suppose it's
Brilliant.
easy to be like really focused on the here and now and yeah, panicking about your current situation. But yeah, just kind of everything changes, and you can always amend. Kind of, you can always change your situation if you want to.
That's brilliant. Brilliant sound. Yep, sound advice. You can always change. There's always another option. I think that's the key thing that we all need to be clear on. There's always another option, and sometimes it's when we feel we have no options is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, and sorry,
No,
I
go on.
think like yeah, to kind of go back to what you said earlier about what advice would you give to anyone who's thinking of getting in business? It's kind of related to that as well. Of like, you think if you start a business that yes, you should give it your everything. However, if you started a business and it didn't succeed, then you can go back to having a job, or you can try
Yeah,
something else, or you can like, yes, you should throw everything at the opportunity and do everything you can. But like, I think that kind of is one of the things that makes you really fearful of starting a business as well. It's like you think that's the be all and end all,
yeah.
but like, okay, like try really hard at it, but if it doesn't work, like that's not the end of everything as well.
It's a great bit of advice, actually, because I think understanding that reduces that fear of starting, as you say, because the fear of failure, I think, is very strong in most people, and accepting that, yeah, it may not work out, but there's always another option, and
Yeah.
that's absolutely key. But Dan, it's been fascinating. Really, I'm really very enjoyable. Actually, your passion for what you do, it comes across very strongly. So thank you so much for your time today. And for anyone watching that would like to get in touch with you or your business, what would be the best way to do so?
Yeah, if you visit our site, it's probably the best example of where to go, or get in touch with me personally. If you go to dream-big-digital.co.uk, you can see like examples of our work and a bit of what we do, or obviously just get in touch with me on LinkedIn or whatever. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, it'd be great to catch up, maybe swing by, catch up another 6, 12 months to see what the next stages are. And in between that, so, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you. No, it's been really good.
Brilliant.